I'm Coach Kel, and this is your daily mental fitness video, part of our ongoing series in which we take a look at everyday mental challenges and discuss tools from psychology and neuroscience that can help. So today's message comes from a viewer that's a self-confessed perfectionist. And she's usually stressed out about performing very highly, which has taken her far in her career, but it's also wearing her down physically and emotionally. And she's feeling like she's running out of capacity to continue this, and she's having trouble deciding what to do. And she writes, "Dear Coach Kel, I am writing because I am having trouble deciding what to do about a long history I have of perfectionism. I have a job in software marketing, and I've done well in my career over the past several years, as well as getting into a good school and getting good grades before that. Since I have performed highly, I always figured that my perfectionism was a good thing to have, even though I feel very anxious and fearful about being accepted and respected, and I usually feel very overwhelmed. Now, I'm starting to feel very tired emotionally and physically, more and more compared to when I started the job, or even compared to just a year ago. I know I need to relax, but I feel like this part of me has taken me very far. What should I do?" Yeah, perfectionism is a common problem, and a lot of times it's suffered in complete silence. If we're the friend of a perfectionist, it's very easy to assume that they're doing just fine. After all, they're accomplishing a lot, probably making good money, and have some good things going on for themselves. But like many forms of mental and emotional difficulties, their internal overall health is suffering. And one of the reasons they're suffering is actually another member of the hormone family, cortisol. You might have heard of cortisol by another name, stress hormone. Cortisol is released by our adrenal glands on top of our kidneys when our brain senses that we need more blood sugar, and stressful times fit that bill easily. Now, it's not adrenaline, which has a much more powerful and shorter term effect on our bodies, but the two often go hand in hand. And cortisol has more of a subtle background role in our daily experiences of life. Now, stress hormone is an unfortunate name for cortisol because in healthy levels, cortisol is beneficial, even essential, to getting up in the morning and getting through tasks and living life. It helps bring us out of sleep, keeps us awake and appropriately alert for normal events and interactions. And it also has a crucial role in regulation of our body's circadian rhythms and making sure our brains have fuel to work with. Now, like our other hormones, cortisol is best in balanced, healthy levels. Too little or too much can affect our health in very negative ways. But wait, Coach Kel, how does cortisol relate to perfectionism? Well, you could consider them pretty close friends. Our viewers' fears of losing acceptance or losing respect are driving her to high performance. But the constant anxiety of those fears is keeping her cortisol levels high all the time. That's not good. Constantly high cortisol has a number of negative effects. It prevents good sleep, which is the bedrock of all mental fitness, and it can cause a number of physical effects such as high blood pressure, abdominal fat retention, weak muscles and muscle wasting, weak bones, increased acne, fragile skin that heals slowly, a feeling of constant fatigue, and many other negative effects. Emotionally, constantly elevated cortisol is also a hormonal hallmark of clinical depression. So feelings of depression could easily go hand in hand with perfectionism. Now, that's a long list of downsides of high cortisol, and so it's no wonder that our viewer feels like she's simply running out of steam to keep this up. She's living in a state of constant stress. So if we're struggling with constant perfectionism, what should we do? Is the status quo worth it? Should we stay stressed, yet keep succeeding at a high level? Well, perfectionism is a classic psychological problem that typically has a root in certain beliefs about ourselves and our world. And there are a lot of psychological resources out there that can help. A good psychotherapist is one of the best ways to begin to dismantle that fearful response for good. And I would definitely recommend that here. But in the meantime, what are some easy tools we can use to get our cortisol levels under control? First, remember how we covered that cortisol release is triggered when our brain senses that we need more blood sugar? Well, fear and anxiety certainly cause that to happen, but there's another source of cortisol that's unfortunately lesser known. If you've heard working out is beneficial to overall health, of course you are correct, But it's important to know that working out triggers cortisol release. Now, hang on, I am not at all saying stop working out. But I would recommend to our friend here that she keeps her workouts to a moderate level at most while she does the psychological work. And I would also recommend working in the first half of the day. Hard workouts that cause high cortisol late in the day can seriously disrupt sleep and have a very negative net effect. Second, light, particularly bluish light, triggers cortisol release by activating some very specific cells in our eyes. Now, thanks to modern technology, it's easier than ever to have incredibly bright light in our eyes at any time of day. And that means it's easier than ever to prevent our own sleep. Now, in simple terms, sleep is essential to learning, and cortisol prevents sleeping. Now, it's critical that we begin to lower the amount of light we are exposed to starting a couple of hours before bed. Otherwise, we could dramatically increase the amount of time necessary to integrate our learning from our sessions with the therapist or any other learning that we're trying to accomplish. That means turning brightness of the lights in our house and on our TVs and monitors and phones way down, as low as you can, or better yet, just avoid screens altogether during that time. Now, it's easy to imagine a situation where perfectionism is keeping you on your computer very late at night, and it's hard to imagine just putting it away. I get it. But at least consider moving those more obsessive working periods to very early in the morning after going to sleep, which will at least put the high cortisol early in the day, so it keeps you awake when you should be awake. Third, anything you can do behaviorally to relax your body and mind will help bring cortisol under control. Slow breathing exercises, relaxation scripts, yoga nidra, and other similar activities can really help here. Now, one big counterintuitive point to remember here: unwinding in front of the TV is not the thing to do. In that context, we almost always consume content that we find stimulating. And that has a chemical signature that will somewhat work against us. It's typically an expression of dopamine, which tends to energize us and also distract us from our stressed out state rather than actually reversing it. More dopamine doesn't necessarily mean less cortisol. Now, nutritionally, indulgent foods, alcohol, and other exogenous foods typically do the same thing, which can compound and complicate the problem. If you're a fan of supplements, ashwagandha is a great adaptogen that can help, but I would only take it ahead of specific times that I expected stress to be particularly high, not daily. Ultimately, though, for the dilemma that our viewer is having of whether to keep succeeding or whether to risk giving up some success to hopefully feel better mentally and physically and emotionally, we really should ask ourselves if we're living a life that we enjoy. Professional and financial success can be wonderful things, and high performance often leads to those things. But human performance demands a diverse set of internal resources. So if we're achieving lots of things, but our emotional or physical or mental fuel tanks feel like they are just being completely drained and never refilled, it's good to consider a reflection and adjustment. And really, think of these emotions and sensations as friends telling you, hey, we noticed something's not quite right. We're not sure what it is yet, but we wanted to let you know. So thanks to the viewer for her question, and let me know in the comments about some of your own experiences around perfectionism, how it affected you, and the things that worked and didn't work to get your stress levels under control. That's what I have for today. If you have a question about a mental challenge you're having, send me a brief email at AutonoMe with an E, Coach Kel, @outlook.com, and I'll see if I can help with a video about your topic. I developed these courses from my own experiences and from various studies in high-quality peer-reviewed academic journals. I'm a practitioner, I literally practice what I preach, and I was able to use them to reduce my ADHD medication regimen by 90%. If these tools can help me increase my natural focus and mental fitness by that much, I'm very confident that they can help you and your team. If that sounds interesting to you, again, feel free to send me an email at autonomycoachkel@outlook.com. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.